Okay, YouTubers, this is the Angry Prepper. So today's episode is going to be part 2 of bug out bags from the bug out series. And we're going to talk about, in this series, we're going to talk about where you place your bag, alternative bags, just in case your bags break, or alternative methods you want to use. And we're going to talk about kids and elderly and how to handle them in their bags. Now, where would you place your bag? Hopefully, you place it by your main entrance or your secondary entrance. Now, here's where one problem arises. If you have a house and you have a 2-story house, you're gonna put your bug out bag by, let's say, your back door, your most frequently used door, which in a lot of cases are people's like side or back door or garage door that leads into their garage. You can also put it by your front door, which is also depends on, let's say, where your staircase is in your 2-story home, right? Your stairs lead right to your front door. That's where your bug out bag should be. Now, one problem, the only problem that arises is if there is a bad flood or B, a fire. You're probably not going out the front door if the fire cuts off your staircase. If the flood is bad enough, you're probably gonna stay put. You're not gonna leave. Your bug out bag's gonna be fucking floating around somewhere. But those are where two problems might arise from. Or there's an earthquake and for whatever reason, your second floor bedroom is now on the first floor, but it's now cutting off your main path. And now you can only go out through a window possibly, right? So those are where situations might come up where putting it by the main entrance doesn't work. But in the few far in between cases that happens, you want to keep it by your main entrance. Where you don't want to put it is in a closet. Don't want to put it in the closet, build your bag, be like, oh man, this is great, and then you throw it in the closet. Because now what happens is you start throwing other things in the closet. Now it's buried. Now you got to get out of Dodge. The shit's on, you got to get out of it. You like, the closet, you go to the closet, and it's fucking buried. Every second counts. Yes, in your closet, it's not the end of the world, but every second counts. And so if every second counts, you want to be able to grab it and go. You don't want to be digging through shit, through bags and other items you put on top of that bug out bag. You should keep it by your main entrance or your secondary entrance. Also, real quick, talking about fires while we're on the subject. If you have a 2-story home, you might want to have a fire bag in your room. So that is by the window, and the window that you're probably going to bail out of if you can't get downstairs. Make sure that you can get to the kids' room if you have kids, and then you guys are going to bail out of that one window. So everybody converges on the master bedroom and bails out of there. The fire bag is a bag that's going to have blankets and a shelter and things like that inside that you throw out of the window. You guys climb out of the window, and now you have that bag in case you can't get to the bug out bag. That's just a quick note. Now, packing lightly. Packing lightly is mainly for the elderly and small kids. Small kids are normally going to have toys and shit like that in their bag. You're going to have some treats and waters and things like that in their bug out bags. Smaller kids. For the elderly, those who have neck, back, knee, hip issues, they're going to want to pack lighter, right? So they're going to want to go with ultralight backpacking. There's videos all over YouTube about it. You can definitely pick from there. What you want to wind up doing too is making sure you're strong enough to carry that bag, especially if you're elderly. So the 20% body weight recommendation, this is from the military. I'm going to look for the PDF that I was given a while back. There's a PDF file where they go through why the military went with the 20% body weight, which in a lot of cases, depending on your MOS or your job, they threw the 20% bag out the window. But that is the max you should hit on your bug out bag. I'm not saying the minimum, I'm saying the max. So if you're building your bug out bag, make sure if you are 200 pounds, you hit 20% of that as your max, not to go over. Try not to go over that because you definitely, first of all, you're gonna feel it at 20%, bottom line. But you are undoubtedly going to feel it if you go over. So stay within the 20% body weight guidelines as your max. Try not to go over that. Now, obviously, the heavier your bag, the slower you're going to move, the more calories you're going to burn. So actually packing light should be for everyone. You should try to pack as light as possible. Now, There are some bug out bag lists out there that are ridiculous, guys. They are absolutely insanely ridiculous. I've never seen anything like it. It's like everything in your house in your bag. It is unrealistic. There is something that I go by. It came from Dave Canterbury, a wilderness survival guy. He came out with the 10 C's. The 10 C's are what you should absolutely follow for wilderness training or backpacking outdoors. Now, with bugging out, I modified the list to the 16 C's. The 16 C's are going to help you keep what you need in your bag and only what you need in the bag so that you don't go over the 20% body weight. For the 16 C's, you should have in your bug out bag cutting tools, covering element, combustion device, lighters, flint and steel, ferro rods, containers, metal containers, that is a water container that is going to help you either cook and drink water out of, cordage, rope, cotton material, cargo tape, which is duct tape, candling device, flashlights, things of that nature, coursing device, maps, compasses, critical care kit, cooking gear. Now, cooking gear is different from containers because you might want to carry, for example, a foldable aluminum stove that allows you to cook in case you can't set something up. You definitely want a critical care kit for the obvious reason. That's your medical kit. You also want to have cash on you as well. Communications. Now, chargers is something new I added because we are in technology civilization now. We are a tech civilization. You might want to carry a charger. That's optional. Communication devices, absolutely. But the charger will recharge your communication device depending on how it hooks up. So that's why you would want to carry a charger. You don't want to go too big, but you don't want to go too small. You want to make sure that charging device can get you to your point B. You might also want to carry a small mini solar panel so that you can charge the charging device. Canvas, repair needles, and clean water. Those are the 16 items you should have in your bag. That is going to change the weight of your bag drastically, guys. Drastically. Trust me on it. I carried everything on a bug out list when I first started preparing. When I got into emergency preparedness and I first, I was like new to this shit. I was like, oh man, I got this list. I was like, oh man, this is a cool list. I packed everything in that list. I went for a bug out weekend. I came back and I said, never the fuck again. No, stupid. Half the shit you're not going to need, half the shit you're not going to use. You're only packing the items you are going to use on that trip. Now, in the 16 C's, which is not in it, but it should have been, is toiletries. Obviously, toilet paper, things like that, brushing your teeth, flossing, stuff like that. That's going to prolong your health, if you will, while you're out there. And your critical care kit, obviously, you're going to have your personal medications and things like Tylenol, Band-Aids, and stuff like that. But you're also going to have a trauma kit in that critical care kit. Keep that in mind. So, this stuff, guys, once I switched over to the 16 C's, my bag was fucking hell of lighter. It was a hell of a lot lighter, than it was when I had the original bug out list. Now, the original bug out list, I no longer go by. It was pretty ridiculous, all the shit that was in it. Actually, I'll put up what it looked like now, right? So this is what the list was. This is all the shit that was in the list versus 16 C's. Your bag just became a lot lighter. The lighter you are, the faster you move, the further you go. The more skill set you have, the less you carry, the lighter your bag, the further you go. So the other thing I did was I took wilderness survival training. I took wilderness survival training by Dave Canterbury and Shane Hobel. Shane Hobel is a wilderness survival expert here in New York. A lot closer than going to Dave Canterbury's, I might add. And learning these skills, guys, I was able to downsize my bag. Now, we're also going to talk about different emergency bags or different bug out bags. Now, there are bug out bags. There was something I created called a bug out rigging system. This is a system that is on a vest, if you will, right? So like a plate carrying vest that has MOLLE webbing, you put pouches on it, sort of looks like this, right? And you put pouches on it and it allows you to carry bug out equipment on your person. It's a little lighter, it's closer to the body, more centered weight, but you're carrying less gear. So that's the only problem. And this is where your wilderness skills will come in handy, having a system like that on you. You also have a bailout bag, which would be in your car. It's a smaller bag in case your car is being attacked or it breaks down. You have a bailout bag. Now, if you have your bug out bag in your car, you don't necessarily need a bailout bag. But a bailout bag, let's say you're driving down the road and there's a shit hits the fan scenario and dudes are shooting at you, the bailout bag is sitting in the front seat. It should be in the center console with you. You grab it and you bounce, right? You also have a child's bug out bag, which, like I said earlier, it's a lot different than an adult bag. It's a smaller bag, way less gear, has some of their toys, snacks, and some water in it. That's it. You don't want to have a heavy bag for a child for the obvious reasons. They're going to slow down. Kids are already whining, complaining about walking to begin with. Now you got this heavy ass bag on their back. You don't want to do that. You want to keep their bag light. There's also, if I didn't mention already, the get home bag. The get home bag is something else. That's, again, if you have your bug out bag at home, you're on a trip, you're a guy that travels a lot, but you need to get back home because you're anti-bug out, you have a get home bag to get you back home. There's also something called a bug out bin. Now, a bug out bin, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's a bin with wheels that allows you to bug out. Now, I did a video on this years ago, but like I said, it has wheels. It's better for older people, the bug out bin. It allows you to put all your bug out items in it and pull it along. The one thing about a bug out bin is you have to look at the wheels. You got to make sure the wheels are like all-terrain wheels. Make sure that they can go over gravel, dirt, and things like that. But a bug out bin is something that you pull behind you with a little knapsack. It's an option. These are options, guys. These are not something that you should have, but these are just other options you might want to entertain. Okay, now we're going to get into alternative packs. Now, alternative packs, they come up when, let's say, your bug out bag completely gets destroyed, but you still have your tarp. Well, you can take your supplies, most of your supplies, not all of them, most of your supplies, and put them in a tarp and roll them up and put them in something called a horseshoe pack. Looks like this. So the horseshoe pack is something that they used out in the West. A lot of like gold miners, they used it going from like the gold mining site, if I'm not mistaken, back to their place of residence. And at times they would just hold up by the stream or whatever they were mining, and that's what they used. A lot of trappers also used the horseshoe pack as well. You know, they had all their trapping equipment and things like that, and you'd be surprised how much shit you can put in it and how much shit you can carry on you. I didn't try it for a bug out weekend yet, but I have tried it just walking around. It's not bad, but it does throw the center of your weight off because it's all leaning to one side. But it's an alternative method in case your bag breaks apart. There's also something called a blanket roll. Now, a blanket roll, this is what it looks like. The blanket roll allows you to carry your gear inside. You put everything like this, laid out just like this, and then you roll it up, and that's a blanket roll. That's another option in case your bug out bag completely falls apart. There's another pack that I absolutely hate. I tried it once, I'll never do it again. It's called a Yukon pack. This is what it looks like here. And the Yukon pack is a pain in the balls. Pain in the balls. It's a pain in the balls to set up. It's a pain in the balls to keep wrapping every day. Let's say you're stopping every day and you gotta unfold this thing, and it's a tarp with all your gear laid inside of it, all your gear. And then you fold it, and there's a specific way of folding it so that it stays in there, and then you lash it with like 550 cord. The problem with it is now, a lot of people use 550 cord, but you want to use belts as a strap. So the 550 cord doesn't eat in your shoulders. You want to use a belt where the weight is distributed a little wider, right? So instead of that little skinny strap, it's wider across the chest, and it's a little more comfortable. It's not comfortable, it's a little more comfortable. You also want to add a waist strap to that Yukon pack. It helps a little bit, but a Yukon pack is a pain in the balls to pack. But again, it's another option to entertain. So the most important items in your bag are food, water, shelter, clothing, and your medical kit. Those are the most important items. If anything else needs to go in that bag, those are the things that need to go in the bag, guys. Above all the other extra shit that you might see online, not necessarily needed. If you are wandering the road, like in the movie The Road, then you might want to go with more shit. But if you have a point B and then C to get to, then you definitely want to stick with the 16Cs or a lighter bag as your bug out bag content, if you will. Clothing and footwear are very important. Footwear, above all, is important, and socks is important. So make sure you have plenty of socks. Make sure your footwear is going to hold up. Don't go to Walmart and get one of those shit Walmart boots and think you're going to make it from point A to B. You're not. Your shit's going to fall apart, right? The more miles you put on your shoes, you start seeing them break down, especially if you're walking every day. So do yourself a favor. If you put money into anything, put it into your footwear. Your footwear is more important. People underestimate the footwear and they get cheap shit thinking, it's okay. It's not okay. If you're gonna spend money anywhere, forget the bags, forget the nifty gear, forget the cool fucking tent and all that shit. Get yourself footwear that is more important than anything else. That's going to carry you the furthest, your feet. Keep that in mind. Also, when you are taking a break, when you're bugging out and you're taking a break, you are going to want to unleash or untie your boots or your shoes. Let the blood flow through it a little bit. And then when you're starting to walk again, tie them back up. All right. You do want to have a stable ankle when you're walking, but when you're resting, you want to make sure that there's some blood flow in your feet. You also want to take care of your feet and make them as comfortable as possible to minimize getting blisters. Now, if you're walking long distance and you never walked long distance before, guys, you're going to get blisters. It's just how it is. At some point, you're going to develop. You might not develop the first day, but you definitely will develop in the second day. On your first day, when you are relaxing, make sure you elevate your feet. Elevate your feet, massage them, elevate them, and then you should be fine for the next day. You are absolutely going to want to put some 0 days in your walking to your bug out location. Depends on how far your bug out location is, guys. You might want to add 0 days into there. Some bug out bag tips. Do not buy cheap. Try to avoid cheap. Try to go middle of the road. I know some cheap dudes out there, man. They're like, yo, but this does just as good. And I'm like, how many of those did you go through? Well, I went through 3 of them in a year. Well, if you buy one, then that's it. You don't have to worry about buying fucking 3. What was it? Ponchos. Buy one, guys. Buy one, make sure it's good. Do the reviews. Unfortunately, with building a bug out bag, you have to do the research on everything you buy. Everything you add in, you have to do the research or you're going to pay for it. So do yourself a favor, buy it once and make sure it lasts a long time. Make sure your bag has the essential items in it as well, but make sure it's light. Don't go super heavy. I've seen some super heavy bug out bags, including mine. When I first did my first bug out weekend, the bag was stupidly heavy. It was the stupidest thing in the world. I'm pretty sure if I would have fell in the water with that thing, I would have sank to the bottom. Make sure your bag has the essential items, but make sure your bag is light as well. Waist straps are a must, guys. Make sure the waist strap is 2 inches wide to 2¼ inches, right? Any wider than that, and it might get in the way when you're like bending over or walking if it's too thick. But if it's too thin, it's going to be rendered useless. So 2 inches to 2¼ inches are ideal in what you want to have as a waist strap, that is. Make sure you know how to use every item in the back, guys. So remember, when you buy it, test it. Make sure you know how to use it as well. Just don't look at it, open it up and go, man, it looks good, and close it up and throw it back in your bag. Test it out. Take it outdoors with you and test it. Build your bag and have your own bug out weekend and test your gear. That is the best way to go about it, guys. It will do you better to test the gear out versus just throwing it in your closet or throwing it by your door. Your bag has to fit your environment. Your bug out bag has to fit your environment, and in a lot of cases will have to fit the disaster. So if you're in an area that has specific disasters, hurricanes, tornadoes, earthquakes, wildland fires, your bug out bag should fit that disaster, should fit your environment. If you live in cold weather, if you live in the summertime, if you live out in the desert, your bag has to fit those environments and those disasters. There is no one size fit all bag. Another thing, do not share your bug out bag. Make sure everyone in your family has their own bug out bag. That is paramount. That's going to minimize issues down the line. Everyone needs their own gear. Everyone needs their own medical gear. Everyone needs their own tent, unless you have a family and small kids. Everyone should have their own sleep system. sleeping bag, things like that. Own canteen. Make sure everyone has their own shit, guys. I don't know how to stress that enough. You do not want to share. Another reason for why not to share a bug out bag or gear. If you guys happen to get separated, now what? Well, you know, my wife, she had the sleeping gear. She had the tent and the two-person sleeping bag. Why the fuck would you go with a two-person sleeping bag? Is beyond me, but I've seen it. All right, so what do I do now? Well, now you're sleeping out in the fucking open because you can't find your wife. She has your sleep gear and you have the food and the weapons. So now all she could do was sleep in a tent with no firearms and no food, and now you're sleeping in the cold because you guys got separated. Make sure you guys have your own shit right down the middle. Make sure your kids, 6, 7, 8, they're quick learners. Make sure they know how to pitch their tent. Make sure they know how to pitch, roll out the sleeping bag and sleep in it. Make sure they know how to survive out in the wilderness. Make sure they know how to do survive in cold weather. I say this because some kids will sleep in the sleeping bag, like they'll open it all the way up and lay it across them instead of laying in it. So make sure your kids know what they're doing with their bag. Kids are fast learner, so once they learn, they remember that shit. They're like sponges, guys. So make sure they know how to use their sleeping bag. Targets. You are undoubtedly a target. It doesn't matter whether you have a hobo bag, right? You know, with a fucking, your gear in it on a stick walking down the street, or an elaborate bug out bag, like a military style bug out bag. Doesn't matter what you have, guys, they're going to rob you. Period. This ideology that, well, the more tactical you look, you know, they might come after you. No, it doesn't matter what you have. They are coming after you regardless. People want your shit. They're going to take it. They're going to take that little knapsack. They're going to take that big bug out bag. They're taking your shit just the same. People out here rob 70-year-old ladies for $40 fucking. They are absolutely going to rob you no matter what you have. The ideology comes from people who do not live in the city. They don't know how city people think. They don't know how thugs think. Thugs will rob you for your fucking 2011 iPhone. I don't know why you would still have a 2011 iPhone, but my point is they will rob you for that as well. So don't get it twisted. You're going to get robbed just the same. You have an X on your back no matter what you have. All right, guys, so this is The Angry Prepper. There's going to be a part 3. The part 3 is going to be a lot shorter. I'm going to explain what I should explain in part 1, the different sizes of the bag and why they may differ versus environment and skills. All right, guys, so this is The Angry Prepper. Thank you for watching. You can like and subscribe to this channel. You can also follow me on Instagram and Facebook for now. You can also head over to The Angry Truth channel and follow me and like and subscribe to that channel, The Angry Truth. All right, guys, thank you for watching.